So as you can see, let me just add like a 9 at the end. Yeah, you can see authorization failed. So that's what happens when you're logging into the wrong account. Log into the right account. We'll be learning how to use Python to get data from MetaTrader5. So for this, you need to have Python installed, pip, venv. This is our virtual environment. You also need to have MT5 installed and a broker account. For this, I'm using Deriv. Start by logging into your broker and then get your account, your password, and your server. For Deriv demo, this is what they use. This is just an example. These are not actually my details. And then open up your terminal and install these requirements. I'm going to link this file in the description. So what we need to do is pip install -r requirements.txt. I already installed this. So MetaTrader5 will be used to interface with MT5. Pandas will be used to save our data to a CSV. This will be used to format our date. This will be used to get the data we've just stored in our .env. This will be used to set our time zone while we're getting dates. And then 6 is the data, and numpy are dependencies of other modules here. So create a file, just call it save-data.py. So the first thing we need to do is get this data from our .env. So the Deriv account, password, and server. So don't forget to put that in a .gitignore in case you push this to GitHub or GitLab or wherever. So the first part will be having our .env. Once you have the .env, just invoke the load.env function. Then I'll get my account. We also need the OS to do that. So let me just import that here. After I get my account, also get my password, and then I get my server. So I can confirm that this is working. Yes, this is working. If we were to change this to something random, should work. Awesome. So that is working. We now want to log in to MT5 using them. So for that, I'm going to define a function. I'm going to call it authenticate to MT5. Write some documentation here. I'll also do some error handling. This is how we'll be handling our errors. So error line is a function that just prints the message that we have in this X marks. Authenticate to MT5 will be taking our account, password, and server. I'll be doing that in our main. So authenticate to MT5 will be taking in our Omaitha account, Omaitha password, Omaitha server. So assuming you had other people's accounts, you would do the same thing. So maybe in your .env you'd say Deriv account Omaitha, Deriv password Omaitha, Deriv account Jane, Deriv account John, whoever. So just be using this to authenticate them. So we can even test this. Let's go back to this. So it's showing the this print here. Okay, so now let's actually log into MT5. So we want to check whether we have MT5 on our system. So, but for this we also need to have imported MT5. I'll just do that up here. MT5 imported. So for this we're checking whether MT5 is initialized. If it's not, we want to print that we have failed to connect to that specific account we are connecting to. In this case, it's my account. And then we quit. So if we have MT5, we want to log into it using our account password and server. And if these details are correct, we want to just print that we've actually been connected to that MT5. And then else, if those details are not correct, we would then print an error saying that something went wrong or the details are not correct. So you can see we're still reusing this function up here. And then we want to return that MT5 module that would be used elsewhere. Well, not really. We don't need to return the MT5 because it's global. Yes. Okay. So let's try to authenticate and see. So this won't work. Let me just hide my details. Let me put my actual details here. So going back to this, I'm waiting for MT5 to launch. This may take a minute. Yay. So you see I'm logged into my account. This one. So if this was, let me just try and do like a false account. So as you can see, let me just add like a 9 at the end. Yeah, you can see authorization failed. So that's what happens when you're logging into the wrong account. We log into the right account. Awesome. So now that we have MT5 running, the next phase will be to getting the data. So the first part will be getting our historic data. We need a symbol, we need a start date, end date, folder path, and a name. So let me start by, so for the symbol, I'm just going to put that up here as well. For the symbol, I'll start with crash 1000. In case you need to know how to get the symbol name, so you'll come to your MT5, then click on this $sign. This will give you a list. So you can check here. So if you wanted to connect to step index, you have to write it as step index the way it's written here. Jump index, jump 25 index. So for now we want crash 1000. So that is why I've written it like this. It has to have the spaces. So for the start date and end date, you can also define those here. So for the time zone, you need to define the time zone first of all and the date time. So let's start by importing date time. Then you remember PyTZ. We'll be using that for the time zone. So we can define the time zone here. I'm using UTC. So we want to get crash 1000. We want to get from the start date of 1st of this year to 1st of March in the time zone UTC. Let me then define a save historic data function. I define that just here. So we'll take the symbol, the start date, the end date, a folder path. We'll get to that right now. Just give me a minute. A folder path, a CSV name. The CSV is what we'll be saving the data as for this specific symbol. So let me first do the error handling. And then do the same in our main function. So we so far defined the symbol, the start date, the end date. So now we need a folder path and a CSV path. Just to come up here. So for the folder path, we want it to be in data and then the symbol name. So first of all, I don't want to save the symbol name as this. I don't have spaces. So the first thing I need to do is get rid of the spaces for that. And then now without the spaces, I can be able to write a folder name. So this means in my current folder, which is on this root, we'll have data and then a folder with which we will now call crash 1000 index without the spaces. So that is the folder path, and then the CSV name, the actual file we'll be saving the data into. We go down, copied the wrong thing. So the CSV name, I want the CSV name to have the symbol name, the start date, and then the end date. But now you can see our date will not be well formatted. So we can start by first of all formatting that date. I want it to be a string. Instead of having like hours and minutes and seconds, I want it to just be year, month, date. I'll do the same for the end date. And then now finally have the CSV name. So this will be, for example, with this, it's going to be crash 1000 index and then start date of 2024-1-1 and then another dash, end date 2024-3-1.csv. So in case we change this to maybe April, this will change to -4. Yes. Okay. So as you've noticed, we first of all do not have a data folder. We don't have a data folder. We don't have a folder within data that has this, that's called crash 1000 index. So for that, we'll need to create a helper function that will be creating that folder for us. I'm going to call it create folder. I'll define it just here. It's actually folder path, right? And then the usual So the first thing we need to do is to check. We want to check whether this folder path that we pass in here, does that exist? If it doesn't exist, we create it. If it exists, we don't do anything. So for this will be a boolean. So using the OS module that we imported here, that we also used here, we'll be checking whether the folder path that we pass in exists. And if it's a directory, this is what that does, is directory. Because we could pass in a path that has a file instead of a folder. So in the event that this check is true, so if the check is true, we just say folder already exists, else we actually create that folder. Let me just format this a bit like that. Yes. So if you were to test this, so this path for symbol, you can see right now we do not have any that is happening here. So we can just test it out here and then pass this folder path, see what happens. So folder created successfully. You can see we have data and then crash 1000 index. If you were to run this again, it will say folder already exists. Awesome. So now going back to actually getting our data, let me just put print here, print statement here that says we're getting historic data for the symbol. Awesome. So we're getting historic data for crash 1000 index. This is here. It's coming from here. This is what I was saying. You see how badly formatted this is. That's why we were just getting the year, month, and then the date. That was the purpose of this formatting. So going down. So after the print, now we need to get the actual data from MT5. Don't forget, at this point, our MT5 is already authenticated. So we want to copy rates from the symbol we pass in, and then now this is the time frame. You can change this to maybe M1, you can change this to M2, M3, to either of these time frames, whichever you want to use, and then the start date and the end date, which we've just passed in here. And then from there, we want to create a pandas data frame that will be used to save this data we've just gotten from MT5. It first of all turns it into a data frame, and you can see that's an error. We need to import pandas first. Going back up here, we import pandas SPD. So instead of typing the whole pandas all the time, we just say PD. So now we have the data stored in a data frame. With the data stored in a data frame, next we want to save it to a CSV. So if you remember, we've already defined our CSV name. So let's do that. So we use a 2 underscore CSV, and then we give in the path. So this will be going back here. Let's just go back to the terminal and see. So for this, sorry. Oh wait, we didn't define that there. So for the folder, we'll be saying data and then crash 1000 index. And then now we'll be saving the CSV name will be crash 1000 index start date end date.csv, and that is what we've passed in as the CSV name here. And then I just want to do a print statement here. Okay. Well, technically, since now we've already created this, we should have done this first. Otherwise, it would not make sense to have it if you're running this for the first time. that will make sense. Let me clear this so that we can see. All right, you can see the data was saved. Crash 1000 index. It's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. Goes all the way. And this was on the 1 minute time frame. So you can change this to something else. However, we should probably have, let's see. So some changes we can make so that we can use this is we can just remove the extension so that the CSV name for symbol is just a string without the extension. And then we could add like a hyphen and then add the time frame here. And then have the time frame here and then add the .csv. If you were to run this again, so you see this doesn't have the time frame. Let's run this again. Yeah, so this is -1. It's just saying -1. You can be more creative with this. So you could say something like this is Python, if time frame is equals to 1, then change time frame to 1 minute, and then use that here. So if you were to run this again, you can see it's changed to 1 minute. So you would need like very many if statements, or you can even use a switch case. Yeah, so let's say we changed this to M5. I'm sure that will be 5. Then say 5 minutes. Yes, this is the 5 minute time frame. So we can just confirm with the timestamps. So the time open, so this is the time. This is a difference of 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes, yes. If we check this, it will be less. Yes, it will be less. This is 60, 60, 60. Yes, it's working. So that is how we get data from MT5. Next, in the next session, we'll be using this data to train an AI model.